Most cocky and arrogant UFC fighter, Michael Page KOs. Many times when we talk about cocky fighters, we always get to witness them getting owned and what they deserve for their pure arrogance. However, for the fighter Michael Page, it's a whole new story you get to see. With his striking knockouts and arrogant behavior, Page has indeed made a name for himself in the UFC. You wouldn't expect any less from the British welterweight, who had competed in several other combat sports before he was able to get to this point in his career. And in today's video, we'll be looking at some of his highlight blows, which he's used to destroy his opponents' faces. While many people only see Page as the arrogant fighter in the cage, they may not be aware that this same man is a fan of semi-contact kickboxing who started his career in the 2000s and is making a name for himself in amateur tournaments with a collection of titles. He had definitely acquired a level of fame. However, he hadn't gotten as rich as he needed to be with all of the skills he had. With that, once he saw the perfect opportunity to build a career in MMA, he immediately went for it without batting an eyelid. He fought against Jefferson, which was scheduled for August 2012. During this fight, Page jumped around the platform, and every chance he got, he made sure to throw sharp punches at his opponent.
Damn!
Once Page had gotten his foot on the ground, he immediately began to show both the audience and his opponent the stuff he's made of from his spinning kicks. By the beginning of the second round, Page had taken over the entire fight with no misses at all, till finally the match was brought to an end as Page took out George with a massive hit to his jaw.
Nice.
Now, celebrating victories after a fight is something Page knows how to do perfectly well. In fact, he never misses. But even before these celebrations, Page sure knows how to taunt his opponents, whether it's by breakdancing in the middle of a fight or paying zero attention during a fight, yet dodging all of the blows from his opponent. But as I already mentioned in the beginning, while you wouldn't expect this sort of behavior to end well, Michael Page definitely knows how to make this work with zero humility. He walks into every match and completely disrespects his opponent and their entire career, and somehow ends up walking out of the Octagon as a winner. His fight against Dishman was his start in MMA, and this is a fight that many people will always remember. The debutant tried to go for a shot at the beginning of the fight, but that didn't end well, and his second shot as well ended with yet another fail, as Venom struck really hard, showing how much of a better wrestler he is. Once Page had gotten back on his feet, he quickly dominated the match, even with Dishman trying to fight back. Page soon brought the fight to an end as he landed a spinning kick, leaving his opponent disconnected from his reality for a second there, and in the space of just a minute, Page had gotten himself into the mainstream of MMA. With the understanding that he wasn't going to be getting any signing in England, Page made his way to sign a contract with Bellator. And for making a debut on American soil, Page was faced with Ryan Sanders. Known for his precise submissions and a 4-3 record, Sanders thought he was the perfect match for Venom. Unfortunately, by the end of the match, Sanders could agree that he was no match for Page, as the match ended with him going face first to the ground as Page struck him in the face like lightning in the space of just 10 seconds. How did he celebrate the win? He dusted off his gloves in victory, and just as that, Bellator had gained one of its brightest stars. His next fight in May 2014 was against Rainey, who turned out to be one of Page's most intimidating challengers. Rainey, unlike other opponents Page had faced, knew his way around the Octagon and definitely knew how to throw a few punches of his own. However, none of all he had was enough to go against Page, and right at the beginning you could clearly see a gap in their skills. While Ricky tried his hardest to get a grip on his opponent, Page, on the other hand, barely had his full attention in the match, yet still had full control of how it went down. Soon, Page got bored and knew he needed to bring the fight to an end, and just like that, with a big right hand in Ricky's face in just the first round, the match was over with a one-punch knockout win. To crown this victory, MVP took a bow and danced his way out of the cage. Following this fight with Ricky, Page was able to keep up a 6-winning streak. But during the time he'd spent without getting any fights, Page decided to turn towards professional boxing. And after signing with David Hayes Promotion, he stood head-to-head against Jonathan Castano in October 2017. It was just the beginning of the match, and Michael was already having a good time throwing jabs and striking hard on his target. And by the second round, Page decided to increase the intensity of his hits leaving Castano confused and unable to understand anything that was going on around him. In the space of seconds, Page took advantage of his confusion and launched at him with a mighty right hand and knocked him out. Almost a year later, in June 2018, Page was back in the ring to contend against Michael Seage, another opponent he could pound the life out of in a matter of seconds in the second round. As the winner of the match, he made sure to put on his regular dance show at the end of the match. Following this match, Page was ready to come back to MMA in 2019 after about 3 other matches. In December 2019, Bellator decided to host a New Year event in Japan where Page went up against Shinjo Anai with a 9-3 record. At the beginning of the fight, Anai was able to survive most of the hits and knees that were directed at him, but that couldn't last too long because at the end of the day, he had to succumb to all of the hits as Anai found himself hitting the ground in the blink of an eye. However, before this win in Japan, back in the States in May of 2019, all of this arrogance and cockiness that Page had always exhibited was finally humbled by Douglas Lima. MVP was convinced that this was just like many of the other fights that always ended with him destroying his opponent in the face and mocking them at the end. But Douglas Lima had plans of his own. Just a few seconds into the second round, Douglas made his intentions known as he gave MVP a leg kick that was followed by an uppercut and constant face pounding, which the referee had to separate. In those very few moments, Page definitely didn't know what hit him, and he wasn't given the time to find out, as everywhere turned dark in a matter of seconds, placing a loss on his clean sheet of wins. Now, any sane person would be convinced that after this fight, MVP would kick it a notch down with his arrogance, but that wasn't happening around here, because just after this fight, he was back to making a fool out of his opponents by making drunken gestures or simply dancing in the middle of the ring. Even after the referee took out points from his score for not paying attention to his instruction, he still went ahead to bring the match to a close by knocking the lights out of his opponent and dancing with no care in the world for what anyone had to say, while still taunting his opponent. A legend, if you ask me. Just like his nickname, Venom, MVP struck again during his fight against Johnny Melillo. In just a minute and a couple of seconds into the first round, Melillo tried to hit him with a low kick. However, MVP was a lot faster this time and countered this attack with a striking punch to the jaw, sending him flying straight to the ground, recording yet another win for Venom. Unfortunately, Page's last 2 fights, one in Bellator against Logan Storley and also his bare-knuckle match against Mike Perry, both in 2022, ended with losses based on decision. Knockout after knockout, and Michael Venom Page was able to build a pro MMA record of 20-2. Something you wouldn't expect from a man with so much arrogance and no respect at all for his opponents. If you enjoyed this video, do well to give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think about this legend. Until then, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and ring the notification bell so you're the first to know when we make an update. We'll see you in the next video.